This is the Heroic Voice, where I talk to comic book creators, people I've worked with, other interesting people, about the history of comics, superheroes, and the current state of the comic book industry. I also discuss current and upcoming projects, current events, and any other topics my guests might be interested in talking about. So subscribe and hit the like button. Help me grow this channel and promote indie comic book creators, publishers, and other people affiliated with the comic book industry. Your comments are appreciated. Get to it and leave feedback, good, bad, and otherwise. I am your host, Dennis Maloney, writer, publisher of the Heroic Multiverse, where we spotlight good girls, bad girls, super babes, and superheroics in a classic, kind of golden agey style. Grab some snacks and enjoy. This is the Heroic Voice. All right, welcome to the Heroic Voice. This is Dennis Maloney, publisher at Heroic Publishing. I'm here with Kevin LaPorte, who's the publisher at Flatline Comics, who does his own comic books. He's done quite a few Kickstarters to get the thing going, the same thing we do. Kevin, if you would, please tell us about yourself, about your company, how you got started in comic books, why you decided to start doing, your own comic books, why publishing your own.
Well,
Take
look,
it away.
I've been a comics fan, a comics reader since the mid 70s when I was a kid, buying comics out of spinner racks and convenience stores. Old school Marvel fan. And I always wanted to make my own comics, but uh, one thing led to another after college and career. I didn't really start doing it until I was in my 40s. And that was just coincidence. I met, I had a longtime friend, Amanda Rachels, who's an artist, and she asked me to put together like a sample script for her. She was just going to do some submissions to some comic companies. And we enjoyed that process so much, we just started making our own comics. We started with a very rudimentary, very low level web comic called The Blind Eye back in 2009. We did 64 episodes of that. And then we entered an online amateur comics competition that was called Small Press Idol in 2010. And we came in second in that, but the whole process just got us more ingrained in the comic making process. We learned a lot, and we decided we wanted to continue. So, as part of that contest, we made a comic. We always skew toward horror. That's just our genre that we enjoy, and we came up with this idea of killer clown anti-heroes. And we've been making that comic. We called it Clown Town at the time. We changed it to Vicious Circus about 5 years later. And we've been publishing Vicious Circus since 2010, right up until tomorrow when I launch another Kickstarter involving the Vicious Circus clown. So that's what
Tomorrow,
we've been doing.
tomorrow would be the 20th of October,
Yeah.
since we're recording this on October 19. So that Kickstarter will be active when this actually goes for public viewing.
Yeah.
You want to give us the link to that? I suppose we go to Kickstarter and just look for Flatline Comics.
You could look for Well, it would be actually, we're still, because you can't change our handle on Kickstarter, we're still using our previous, our overarching publishing name, Inverse Press. But if you just search for Vicious Circus Halloween, it'll pop right up.
Great. And I would urge people to support that. Kevin
Thank
does
you.
some good comic books.
Thank you.
I would ask you where the name Flatline Comics came from. What was the inspiration for that?
Like I said, we had been working under the title Inverse Press since we started, and honestly, I just came up with that off the cuff because we needed something to stick on a cover one afternoon back in 2010, 2011. So not much thought went into it. And about 4 or 5 years ago, we saw an uptick in our sales and our Kickstarter success. And I wanted to do something a little more identifiable, a little more specific, with a little more pizzazz, I suppose. And like I say, most of our books are skewed toward horror, and the concept of flatline related to uh, death in horror movies, and the idea of line being a line of comics. I just
Ah,
connected those two things together, and we've been using Flatline. I have a great logo guy, Gavin Michelli, out of Baton Rouge, and he came up with a beautiful logo for it. And we've been running with Flatline ever since.
great. That's great. How many books are out there? Where can people get them? I mean, if they missed the Kickstarter, then they got to be able to get them somehow. Social media, right? And website.
Yeah,
Tell
our
people.
website, we have a web store at flatlinecomics.com, and it includes everything that we currently have in stock. And our entire line is in stock in one form or another. If we don't have it in floppies, we've got it in trade paperback collections. So flatlinecomics.com. And we're on all the major social media. Facebook is Flatline Comics. Uh, Instagram, Flatline_comics. But I'm mostly using Substack these days. It just
Mhm.
produces a better return and better engagement. And there it's kevinlaporte.substack.com.
So you'd recommend Substack to people for.
I have just gotten such a better response on Substack in terms of engagement, in terms of interest from other creators, in terms of people actually opening and reading the newsletters that I send out every couple of weeks. Yeah, it's been a really big help in actually connecting with people, not just readers or backers, but with other creators. It's been a lot of fun. A lot of learning has occurred since I got on Substack, and it just feels nice to not feel like you're shouting into the void,
Yeah,
like with Facebook or Twitter.
I will take your advice and investigate Substack. We do not currently have a Heroic Publishing account on there, but
Yeah.
given what you're saying, that's clearly an oversight that needs to be remedied.
Well, I actually took our MailChimp mailing list, I would say a year and a half ago,
Hmm.
and transferred it to Substack and just stopped using MailChimp altogether. And
That's
the open rates have been better. Like I say, the engagement has been much better. So it's been really nice.
okay. For mailing, we have been using Constant Contact.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you use that as well?
I've used it for another non-comics related business in the past couple of years, but it's very similar to MailChimp.
All right, I will definitely investigate Substack
Yeah.
then. All right. Can you give people a clue as to what the upcoming Kickstarter involves? Basic
Yeah.
plot, why they should be interested in it, what's cool about it?
Yeah, for the past 4 years, I've been working with a Mexican artist named Oscar Pinto. Is based in Mexico City. Just a beautiful, almost Sienkiewicz style of art. Um, he's done a lot of covers for us over the years, but we talked a few years ago. And we wanted to do a Halloween specific book, and so for the past 4 years, we put out a Vicious Circus Halloween book. And these are self-contained stories, one per year. And so this year marks the fourth of those. And so we're doing a box set with each of the Halloween books that we've put out over the last 4 years, including a brand new issue that's coming out. The 2024 Halloween special is headlining this. It comes in a gorgeous collector's box with all art by Oscar, who just finished up an arc on DC's The Joker, the World graphic novel. So he's really getting out there. Just love his work, love working with him. And it's a really creepy set of Halloween stories. And our Vicious Circus clowns are diametrically opposed to what you normally see in horror clowns that eat children or go after children. They actually go after abusers. And so they're sort of anti heroes. And so each of these stories has kind of played on the myths of Halloween, of razor blades and candy bars and things like that. And the clowns go after people who victimize people on Halloween, and then those sort of stereotyped ways that we heard about as kids and all through the decades. And this last one takes on a high society masquerade. So the clowns infiltrate this, and it's a very violent, but I think very interesting, different sort of story. Very creepy vibe to it, and there's always a hint of the supernatural with what I do when I work with Oscar.
And are you going to keep this Halloween tradition going for a while?
Right now, this is the last one we have planned. He and I have talked about a new non-vicious circus series that we're conceptualizing right now. but I don't entirely rule it out. I've enjoyed it. I think it's my strongest work as a writer, to be honest with you. When I read it, I'm just very pleased with how it's come out, and the artwork is so pristinely beautiful to me. It would be hard for me to relinquish this Halloween book. It's my favorite holiday, and so yeah, I'm right now. I don't have plans to do one next year, but that doesn't mean I won't. I love making comics, and at some point, I may have an idea and I may just run with it. So we'll see.
Well, I want to say that it is a pleasure to meet you. I've been kind of following your stuff on Kickstarter, even though I haven't
Oh well,
supported everything. And I do get the emails that you send out. They're very good.
I
Let's talk.
appreciate that.
Let's talk about Kickstarter. You've in your emails, you've lodged a few observations and complaints about what's happening there today. Do you want to talk about that?
Oh sure,
Uh,
yeah. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot. But I think anybody that's done Kickstarter at sort of our mid-level of success in the past 10 years has seen since right after the pandemic, um, there was a spike in Kickstarter success for comics during the pandemic. People were locked down, wanted something to do, wanted something positive, wanted something creative in their lives. And so we definitely saw a big spike in our Kickstarter revenues during that time. But probably in the last 2.5 years, we've seen that steadily spiral down.
mhm.
And we're not the only ones. I see it when I support other creators. I'm seeing that the amounts that they're getting back for is dropping, the number of backers is dropping. And so I was curious, and I noticed that there's kind of a hole in the marketplace around Kickstarter where nobody's really curating the Kickstarter comics market and culling out what's really working there, what the good comics are. Nobody's like covering that. There's some news sites like The Beat, they'll cover 3 or 4 campaigns a month, but there are right now, I think this morning there were 337 projects in the comics categories on Kickstarter. And so there's just nobody looking at those, analyzing those, looking at the trends, at the patterns in funding and what's being released and what's succeeding. And so I kind of took it upon myself, and it's been an overwhelming task to say the least. But since the third week of August, I believe I've looked at every single comics category Kickstarter launch every day, and so I've seen some patterns. One thing I'm seeing is that there's a real upper crust in Kickstarter earning for certain creators, and then there's sort of the middle class, which I kind of include us in, and that middle class is seeing their revenues and the number of backers drop over time, even though it theoretically should be doing the opposite, especially if you're successful at actually putting out books on time, putting out quality content, and meeting your promises that you make to the backers. But actually, a lot of people are seeing the opposite of that, where it's diminishing. And I think the general kind of conventional wisdom was to blame Keanu Reeves for Berserker or Image Comics for doing the G.I. Joe omnibus and doing, I forget what they make, $3 million on that campaign, something crazy. I backed it. I love that. It's a great campaign. But the truth is that when you look into it, that's not where the competition is for the mid-level creators. It's really in a lot of different areas. But the problem seems to be that Kickstarter isn't really curating or being choosy about the projects that they're allowing to launch. There are a lot of projects with no evidence that they're actually making a comic. There's no cover, there's no interior art. There's just text walls, 2 or 3 paragraphs that get approved, and they're out there. There are creators who are launching 2 to 3 campaigns a month, and they're not getting fulfilled for a year at a time. And so you've got this glut of projects with long-term fulfillment dates that have 5 to 6 figure campaigns attached, and the backers of those campaigns aren't getting their rewards for months and months and months, and in some cases they're more than a year late.
Yeah.
and it poisons the marketplace for the rest of us. It gives this reputation to Kickstarter creators as people that don't make good on their promises, that don't give you the product that you're paying for, and it bleeds off of them and onto the rest of us. And if
Sounds like
I mean,
there's an implicit recommendation in there that Kickstarter should maybe be demanding proof of the product.
and they used to,
Uh-huh.
and that changed at some point. But I don't know if you saw the article I posted week before last. There's one creator with 13 projects in the past 18 months to the tune of well over $100,000, and none of them have been fulfilled. And Kickstarter is still approving their projects.
Hmm.
And I remember a time when I just tried to get one approved so that I could do the pre-launch promotion, and I had one piece of one reward from a previous campaign that I still had to fulfill, and they wouldn't even approve me just to have the pre-launch page. And this was a few years ago, and they've seriously
Their business
changed their
model.
philosophy on these things since then. But it's kind of gone too far the other way, in
Yeah,
my
I
estimation.
think you're right. I think it's lax. We have a couple of projects that we haven't been able to fulfill yet, and I felt so guilty about that that I haven't put anything up on Kickstarter until I get those projects done and out to the backers. So, I completely understand what you're saying here. There's, let me say, Kickstarter's business model has to be to generate revenue, right? I would suspect that the reason they're so lax is because approving projects generates money for them.
Yeah,
Um,
and just this week, and I'm speaking just anecdotally here, but at one point, on Tuesday, they launched 37 comics projects, and most of them are legit. I went through all of them. Most of them are legit comics, and a lot of them look really great, truly. Um, but that made for 347 projects at one time. I can remember, I guess I'm dating myself, but I can remember when 142 projects was a ton on
yeah.
Kickstarter at one time.
Mhm.
And so now we're all competing with more than 2 or 3 times as much as we used to, which
Yeah,
is the real problem. There's
that's
only
the
so many
economic.
dollars, so many backers to go between
Exactly. That was
everybody.
what I was going to say. There's the economic issue there. There's only so
Mm-hmm.
much money out
Yeah,
there that can go to support the projects. And if you have projects that aren't actually being produced, sucking up that money, obviously there's less of it to go around to people who are producing
yeah,
the material. Yeah.
yeah. And it just gives the whole marketplace this bad reputation as something that's a ripoff.
Hmm.
That's the word I hear a lot when people talk about Kickstarter comics. Well, 5 years ago, I backed so and so project, never got it, and I'm never backing another one again. But what if you backed 3 or 4 and didn't get anything? They're definitely not coming back.
Yeah.
Or you're waiting a year plus to get a comic. It doesn't take that long. If you logistically on top of your game, things happen. Printers get behind. You get a project with errors in it. You get a comic that needs to be reprinted because of an error of the printer. These things happen, especially when you've got 12 or 13 projects you haven't fulfilled yet. The logistics get crazy,
Oh yeah.
and people just aren't being responsible. And I think Kickstarter's got to take a little more role in reining some of this in and reestablishing a better reputation for everybody that funds on Kickstarter, not just the people that are funding 6 figures at a time.
Hmm. Yeah, I think I agree with you in principle. There is a lack of not quality control, but a lack of effort in policing, I think.
Yeah, I think it's just curation. It's just simple curation. One of the suggestions I made, because I see a lot of these, I think I saw 3 or 4 from those Tuesday launches where people obviously want to make comics. And so they put together a Kickstarter, but they don't have a cover or one page of interior art or even, scratch paper where they sketched out a concept. Why would it be so hard to redirect them to resources that would help them learn how to actually make a
Mhm.
comic rather than put them up on Kickstarter where they're 100% guaranteed to fail? There might be burgeoning comic geniuses in those groups of people that just need a little point in the right direction. And they're lots of free resources out there. Tyler James's comics launch program, tons of hours and hours and pages of free resources on how to make a comic and how to run a Kickstarter.
Yeah, one
Um,
thing that I have vowed is that, when we do our next Kickstarter, which will be after we fulfilled the stuff we're behind on, I'm not going to do it unless it's basically ready to go,
yeah,
right? Um, and we have been having, we've been working on new material. We're getting everything, our ducks in a row for this, so that the next time we do a Kickstarter, we'll have everything there for people to see, whether it's an issue of League of Champions, right,
yeah.
or a League of Enemies role-playing game.
Mhm.
Whatever it is, it's going to be there, and it will be as soon as it's funded, it goes right to the printer.
Yeah.
That's the vow I made, and we're going to stick to that. So, you know,
Yeah, it's a more comfortable way to do things, certainly, on the creator side, because even the best laid plans go awry sometimes, and
oh,
things with
absolutely.
printers or shipping, or you know, sometimes I'm going to find errors that I made in lettering or something like that that I need to get fixed before I'm willing to send it out. So the more we can get done ahead of time, the better we're going to feel at that fulfillment point, even if there's a problem.
Or there are two more pages of artwork that I haven't been able to pry out of the artist yet.
Hey, I've
Yeah.
been there. I know what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Oh my goodness. Alrighty. Kevin, is there any topic that you would like to talk about that hasn't occurred to me? Um,
I don't think so. Despite my, and I will just classify them as observations about Kickstarter. I don't want to be too critical. I owe a lot to Kickstarter. I try to be positive about it. I just want to improve the environment for all of us, for
yeah,
everybody.
that's a
Um,
lovely goal.
yeah, but I think it's creatively allowed us to have like a golden age in comics. I mean, there's so many fascinating and cool, weird, different comics on Kickstarter at any given time. And I've backed a lot of the ones that I've found. I have to back them at the digital level because I don't have enough room to store them all. Um, but it's been a really great time in finding unique ideas and off the wall artists that just produce gorgeous work and things like that that without Kickstarter would not exist.
Yeah, there are also other funding platforms out there that do this, and I would recommend that people not only look at Kickstarter, but look at fundmycomic.com. And Indiegogo has comic books up there.
Mm-hmm.
There's another one that I've started exploring. Uh, what is the name of that? I'm blanking. I'm sorry, but there are
Oh,
several different.
Backer Kid has started doing it.
Mhm.
They've started crowdfunding. Backer Kid, Zeus, is that it? Something like that.
Crowdfunder without the E,
Crowdfunder. Yeah,
crowdfunder.com,
yeah, right.
crowdfundr.com. They're doing stuff. Look at all of those sites, see comics that you like that look like, they have something going, and by all means back them.
Yeah,
Because, as you say, there's a lot of good stuff out there, a lot of innovative stuff, interesting
yeah,
stuff that really needs support it needs to build a fan base. All
absolutely.
right. Kevin, it was a pleasure. Let's wrap this up. I wish you luck on your Kickstarter, which it will be underway when this goes live on
Yeah.
YouTube. And before we take it live, we will give you a link so that you can review it. And
Okay.
I would urge people to visit Kevin's social media, visit the Heroic Publishing social media on, at Heroic. Also visit our website at heroicmultiverse.com. Like, subscribe, share this channel. By all means, if you like this interview, share it. Let's give us both some publicity, Kevin. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All
Will
righty.
do. Thanks
Have
so
a good
much.
evening.
You too.
Bye-bye.